I am so glad you decided to join us today. This is the Words for Life podcast, where we have candid conversations about successes, challenges, and the benefits of strengthening your relationship with God. This will positively impact your life. Welcome to another Words for Life discussion. I'm your host, Terrence Farrell, aka T Farrell, and again, I thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate all the love, all the emails, the DMs saying how this is real encouraging for you. I've had one person call and said, man, I had to listen to an episode like 2 or 3 times. It has so many nuggets in it. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. And while I'm thinking of it, like, subscribe, throw some comments down there. Let me know who you think we should have on the Words for Life podcast next. I'll take it into consideration, see if I can reach out. So I'm always looking for suggestions. That'd be cool. Today, got a longtime friend, my friend Craig Crawford. We played together. He's Craig Crawford Players. I remember back in the day when he was running a company, IneedAmusician.com. And I was one of those musicians on there. You know, he sent me here, sent me there for interviews. So we've known each other for quite a while, and we're going to get into that discussion. But before we go there, just wanted to share a quick little testimony or a thing that came to mind that I wanted to encourage you with. Now, during this whole pandemic, and it's worldwide, most of the people that I know have put on a couple of pounds, and I'm there with y'all. And I had to realize that taking care of your temple is important. Everybody's talking about the spiritual, and I'm gonna get my mind right. I'm gonna, tackle this new passion that I have. But staying physically fit is key. It's really key. My company, Be More Today, me and Sean Thomas, we run Be More Today. And what we always say is, if you can stay spiritually fit and physically fit, everything else seems to fall into place. And I had to really go back to basics, and where I'm talking about drinking water. Water is key. When you drink enough water, they say you're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 100 pounds, drink 50 ounces of water. So that's one key. Another key that's always difficult for me and difficult for most people I know is sleep. They say 7 hours of sleep. I shoot for 6 or more, but 7 hours of sleep is something that really rejuvenates the body, rejuvenates the muscles, the mind. So just those 2 things. Of course, exercise, put that in there too. But I just wanted to inspire you to think about your body, to really get back on a regimen. If you can't go to the gym, walk around the block. Do push-ups in the house, get some jumping jacks going on. They got things on YouTube where you can follow a regimen and, do a little exercise, a little workout. Do that. It will pay off. It will pay off bigger than you think. Give you more energy, keep your mind sharp, all of that. So I just wanted to encourage you with that word. Let's get our bodies right. Take care of your temple. So back to Craig Crawford. Now, I want to read a little bit. I just took a little clips of his bio because, his bio is extensive, but I just took a couple of clips. Craig he's an established saxophonist and music producer. Craig and his 5-member band, the Craig Crawford Players, had the privilege of playing for some high-profile artists, including Alicia Keys, Donnie McClurkin, Denise Williams, and the late gospel patriot James Cleveland, just to mention a few. He's also the president and CEO of Life Jam Entertainment. He's also a professional video producer and editor, which I was surprised when he first got into that, and he's taken that to new heights. As a matter of fact, he most recently had a reality sitcom picked up by USA Network called The Rev. He co-executive produced that. Now, let me tell you something. I checked out The Rev, and I'm not a TV guy. I'm not. I spent a lot of time in the studio, and I checked it out. It is hilarious. Now, that's not just me. for y'all that know my wife, she's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And we sat there, we taped it because some things were going on and we couldn't catch it live. And we taped it and we watched the first one. And I figured, she's going to do me a favor, watch the first one with me. And then she was like, well, is there another one? Did you tape another one? And we sat there and just watched one after the other. It's hilarious. It's good, clean humor. The kids can sit around with it, and it's hilarious, man. It's cool. And so I want you to help me welcome Craig Crawford. Craig, how you doing, man?
I am great, Terrence. It's a pleasure to be with you. Like you said, we're longtime friends.
Yes.
You're a fantastic drummer. I mean, every time I hear you play, it's a pleasure. And just to be around you, your spirit, your personality is great. And, you're a great audio engineer. Just so many things you do. And, it's great being around people that are creative. And that's what I love to be and to do, to be creative.
That's cool. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So out of all the things that you've done, and I love the fact that I called you as soon as I heard about the Rev, and I'm like, man, you on USA? That's what's up. But for you, what's one of the most memorable success stories?
Oh my goodness. That is so difficult to answer because God just continues to blow my mind. He's been blowing my mind for so many years. It's just been awesome. I've been on stage with so many people. I've been to China and Asia,
Nice.
With Scottie Pippen and Oscar Robertson and Dennis Rodman.
That's what's up.
It's just stuff like that I just sit back and I say, all right, God, what are you going to do next?
Nice.
So it's hard to narrow one thing down, and I'm sitting here today with a reality show on USA, and it just takes me back to the time when I was 17 years old and I got cut from the basketball team, and I had the option of either working or taking an internship for video. And I thank God for hearing his voice and taking the internship, because that brought me to where I am today. The internship prepared me for what I'm supposed to do, I don't know, 40 years ago or 40 years later, So
Right.
that's just incredible. So it's just hard to pinpoint one thing because God just continues to show me things and to take me places that I can't even imagine.
No, I definitely get that, man. I definitely get that. You've done a lot of different things. So now, in all the moves that you've made and hearing God's voice here and pivoting and doing this, what's one of the most the strongest lessons you've learned from that?
I remember, as I talk about all these great things that God has done and the places that God has taken me, I remember the time when I was unemployed, and I finished a job where an employer owed me $10,000, and he said he wasn't going to pay me. And he simply said, you got to take a risk just like me. The sad part about it was I had a mortgage, I had a car note, family, everything. And I'm sitting here, I was quite angry because, hey, it's $10,000.
Yeah, to say the least.
Nothing,
Of course.
nothing to sneeze at. And so I, put the legal wheels in motion, but that still wasn't going to answer the problem right now because I was getting paid on a monthly basis. But long story short, I remember God specifically saying to me during that time that a lot of people believe in me, but very few people trust me. And I started to understand what God was saying, that, a lot of people go to church, A lot of people grew up in the way, and a lot of people believe in God, but to actually trust God is a whole different level.
Yeah.
So when I started to trust God, God started speaking things in my mind that I actually believe were capable. I actually started to know God's voice even clearer and started to act on those words. So God has just been blowing my mind ever since. And that place of unemployment was a place where God met me. He sent people that helped me meet the need, and things just grew from there. And it got better and better month after month, year after year.
Nice, nice. I love to hear that. I mean, and then the next thing I was going to ask you is what's one of the toughest things God pulled you through? Yeah.
Well, that was probably the toughest thing, not knowing where your money is coming from. And, but, like I said, it was a point that I believe that God had to take me to really get my attention, because a lot of times, we go along in life and we just float along, just, enjoying our material blessings and forgetting about who God is and who's the supplier of all our wants and needs. And sometimes it takes those tough situations for us to pay attention to God and for us to get back to where we need to be. So it was that situation, I believe, that really was tough naturally, but spiritually it was awakening. And it really brought me to a place and a level in God and a maturity in God that brought me to this day.
I think on the last podcast, I don't know if it was the last episode or the one before that, I talked about, because it was a sermon that I heard, I think it was from Andy Stanley, and he talked about moving past being a believer and be a follower, or like you said, trusting more.
Yeah.
And because people believe in God and, they have businesses and I believe in God and, I'm not going to do anything to offend him. But when it comes to trusting him and following him, when he says, go left, it's like, okay, left does not look like the way. You know what? If I keep moving this way, I'm going to give you all the honor and the praise. But this is the way that, the internet says go and the books say go and all of that. And a lot of people don't move, or you have to hit a maturity level to now move. When God says, go this way, you go, all right, I just been fishing out here, but I'm going to drop the net one more time, okay, because you said so. And then you end up with, a net that you can't control yourself.
It's true. And God has said to me on many different occasions, do this and do that. And I would say, Lord, you know how much that costs?
Yes, I've been there.
I can imagine God saying, really? Really? So, Terrence, I went from being unemployed that year to the next year buying another house. And that was a whole just incredible walk of faith. And then subsequently, renovating the house and doing all these different things. Then I get a call to go to China for a month. And just, when I get there after the 15-hour plane ride, I'm sitting there and I'm looking around. I'm like, my mind is blown, because I'm like, God, I don't even know how I got here other than you. And when the beautiful thing is when God orders your steps, everything just falls in line. You don't really have to get out there and do a whole lot of fighting and a whole bunch of, you don't have to do any manipulation or anything like that. You just let the Lord open the doors for you, and you just, you're basically God's guest.
Right.
When God invites you, you're a guest, and he prepares a place for you.
No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Now, I'm going to go a little off script here, but
Sure.
I want you to talk a little bit about, because here's the thing, and I fell into this too. So you get to the maturity level and you say, man, God, you're telling me to go here, you're telling me to go here, you're taking care of everything. And there's a part of you that says, I don't have to work. I just show up and God, you're gonna do the rest. And I want you to talk about the fact that it's still work. Like God's showing up, He's opening doors, but you still gotta move through the door. You still gotta pull all the stuff He said to pull through the door.
Yes. I'm going to tell you how that corresponds to the reality show.
Okay.
In 2012, I believe it was, or 2013. No, 2013. I was in rehearsal with Richard Hartley at his church. We were preparing for Carnegie Hall, a performance there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting there, and Richard is doing his thing with his choir, just being crazy as he normally is, trying his different tactics to get people to perform. And I mean, if anybody knows Richard Hartley, like you, I know you know him.
Yeah.
He's very animated. So I'm sitting there in rehearsal, and God says to me, this is a reality show. And I said back to God, you're right. And so I said, after I made up my mind, after rehearsal, I'm going to go and ask Richard, can I videotape him and, produce a reality show? And I'm thinking Richard's going to say no, because not many people want their private lives out there in public. Mm-hmm. So after rehearsal, I got the nerve up to go up to Richard and say, what you're doing here is hilarious, and I think it's a reality show. Do you mind if I come in and shoot you? And he says, sure, we'd love it. And I'm like, okay. And at that point, the water hit the seed and things started to grow. So for about 6 months, 4 to 6 months, I started coming to his church and his home and videotaping him and interviewing people and just putting things together. Mm-hmm. And then it took another 4 to 6 months to edit everything. So started shopping it. I knew some people at NBC, and they gave me some pointers. Mm-hmm. And they said, show it to so and so, show it to so and so. And so different people looked at it. Oh, you got something here is interesting, but still no bites. Talked to my friend Pauletta Washington, who was Denzel's wife, and she said, "Oh, this looks great. I want to, I'm going to give you some numbers here. Contact these people." And it just, people were contacted, but it just wasn't time. So we continued to shoot it. I showed it to another friend of mine. He said, I know an agent friend of mine in Miami, and so I sent it to him, and we started hitting these different production companies, and production companies would call back, "Oh, we like it. I don't know about that, So, long story short, we got traction with one. We got traction with a production company. Said we want to sign a deal with you, and so we signed the deal. And the president of the company called me back. He said, "My friend, we got TV gold here." And I was like, "Great!" And we got a development deal with Lifetime, the Lifetime channel. Nice. And they came and they shot about, I guess, a couple episodes for about 4 months, and took another 4 months to edit things. And then at the end of that 4 months, everything looked great. The sizzle reel looked great. And they decided that it wasn't for them, because they just finished doing the R. Kelly series. Mm-hmm. And so I was a little bit disappointed, because I thought we were at a level that we were going to the next level. But prophecy had came forth that this is not it. It's going to be even bigger. And so, long story short, it was bigger. We got an offer from Netflix. We got interest from OWN. We got
nice.
For a couple others, and we ended up going with USA, because USA is such a big family of channels, and it was just a place that God wanted us to be. So, yes, there was a lot of work in putting all that stuff together. It's not just God says, I'm going to bless it, but you got to do something that He can bless.
Yeah.
You got to put your hands to something that He can bless. If you don't do something, God's not going to bless lazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've gotta start to create something, and then God is going to bless it.
No, you're absolutely right. And a lot of people feel like they're not lazy.
Yeah.
Until the rubber starts to hit the road. And I found myself many times second guessing.
Yeah.
Where God says, do this. And I go, okay. And I start hitting opposition. And it's like, all right, was that me that wanted to do it? Or was that God that said to do it? Like, I need a little confirmation here. And you start to slow down on your enthusiasm. Because, as a human, you get, you get hurt. You get like, oh, man, I thought this was moving.
Yeah. A lot of times we've got to fight, because the Bible tells us we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
Yes.
Our fight is not just against, another person, but it's something higher. So we've got to get in there, and we've got to have thicker skin. And when people tell us no, it may not be for that person, but it may be to go somewhere else. And if God Himself has not told you to stop, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
You got to persevere.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Thank you for that, man. Also wanted to ask, now I know in my life there's been, like I've been a Christian all my life. I've gone deeper and deeper with God. But there were a couple of points in life where I got a word from God, whether it be in reading His word or from the pulpit or from somebody just passing, that kind of shifted my life or took it to a whole nother level. And I wanted to know, just in hopes that it would help somebody else.
Sure.
One of those moments for you, if you could share.
Oh, my goodness. I grew up at the First Church of God in Christ in Brooklyn. And then in 2004, I started attending Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn as well, under the leadership of Pastor A.R. Bernard. And let me tell you, that was just after the time when, I was unemployed and just needing direction from God. And God just was leading me and directing me to the right place. And I would sit up and I would tell my wife and other people, this is the first time that I've ever sat in the church and took notes like I'm in school, because the information that God was providing through Pastor Bernard was just mind blowing. And I took so many notes. It was just, just incredible. So it was biblical, but it was also practical. Pastor Bernard would take the word and bring it to everyday life. It's not just so much about preaching about those dry bones, but it's about, making it applicable to, husband and wife relationship, job relationship, people, just Christ and culture,
right.
in general. So it was that moment that, well, should I say those years, and I'm still a member of CCC. It's those years that have really raised my spiritual maturity.
Is there a specific word that jumps out to you where you can say, oh man, I remember when I heard this, and it was just, it shifted my whole thing. Like, one for me was when I did hear that sermon about believers going past believing and becoming followers. It was just like, yeah. And it was just, it took root, and it was just like, okay. And then it's like, all right, God, whatever you want me to do. Like, I remember that moment. It was just like, okay, things are going to be different from this moment forward.
Yeah. It was a lot of different things. It was not just His word every Sunday, but it was His deeds as well.
Okay.
For example, he started with 7 people, which were all members of his family. And then he moved to a storefront. And then he moved to 1400 Linden Boulevard.
I remember
And then,
that.
right. And then he got a vision. And actually, I met Pastor Bernard in a barber shop, didn't know
Wow.
who he was. And my barber, who was his barber at the same time, said to me, Craig, give him your card, your business card. And I said to myself, why am I giving this insurance guy my business card? And so I gave him my business card after, and he said, I'll talk to you when I'm finished with my haircut. And so he said, I'm Pastor Bernard. And I was like, oh. So it was just encounters with not only the word of God that was provided through Pastor Bernard, but also the deed, because Pastor Bernard would show you what he's doing. You would see video of the lives that he impacted, not just in America,
Right.
but in foreign places. It would be in Spain, it'd be in Brazil, it'd be in, different parts of the world. And you would look around the church and you would see, where your money is going. You would look outside, you would see where your money is going. You would look through the whole facility and you would see representations of what his vision was. So it's things like that inspires me. I'm not big on talk and committees and having meetings to, I'm like, all right, what's the plan? Let's do the plan. So
Right.
when I come back to you the next time, I'm not only going to have step 1 done, I may have step 1 through 5 or 1 through 10 done. So I'm an action type person, and I like people that are hungry like that. And those are the things that that changed my life through attending CCC and getting to know Pastor Bernard.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. Anything that, well, let me ask it this way. What's one of the most important things you've learned about being an entrepreneur?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I hear people saying, I want to be my own boss. I don't want to take orders from anybody. And, in order to be your own boss, you've got to be a good follower, because the only way you're going to learn how to be your own boss is by being able to communicate with people, and you have to learn how people communicate to you, so you know how to do it when it's your turn to lead. So being a good entrepreneur is a lot of hours, a lot of planning. It's getting up early, it's going to bed late, it's thinking not just what's going on tomorrow, but what's going on next week, what's going on next month, what's that release date. When I have a CD that, should I say, a new music project that I've recorded, and it's ready. It was ready back in October of last year,
Right.
but I didn't want to release it yet. But because of the restrictions on being able to play in person, I'm not really a person that want to do everything online. There's going to be some online promotion, but I want to be able to get in front of people and play. So the project is ready. As an entrepreneur, it's already sitting here ready to go. The next thing is waiting for the right opportunity. So that all involves planning, getting all the people involved, because you can't do everything yourself. You got to have a good graphic designer. You got to have a good promotions team. You got to have a promotional plan. So there's just so many things that you have to have in order for success. Success is a series of steps that lead to a place called success. It just doesn't happen on its own.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the planning is so overlooked. People think, oh, I'm going to make this, and when people hear it, it's just going to go. Or, when I do this, all I need is the right connections. It takes a lot of planning, because you could have the right connections and they go, yeah, it is not really the right time, or, it's just, and so Planning is really key, and it takes a lot of energy, man.
Yeah.
A lot of research.
So many
all of it.
people want to do what the next person is doing, but your road, your business plan has to be customized to your audience, and your style of whatever it is you're doing. You know, I'm doing music that can be appreciated in the church and in the jazz community. So I've got to look at that and make sure I have the right balance and the right people that can cater to both of those audiences. So, you know,
Right.
there's a lot of planning that goes involved, and you know, it's not simple, but it's work and it's rewarding. You know.
Right. Right. Nice. 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 So I have to ask, man, what's next for you? What's next for Craig Crawford?
You know, Terrence, if I could answer that question, I could make a lot of money. But what's next for me is really whatever God has, and I'm not saying that to be quote unquote deep. I'm open, you know. I'm flexible. Whatever God wants to do with me, I'm really open to. I'm heavily into investing. I started investing back in 1997, and
Nice.
I started doing a lot of it on my own in the last, what is this? This is 2021. So in the last 4 years, I started doing a lot of my own, and it's been a tremendous blessing.
Nice. Nice.
You know, I think of the 10 talents in the scriptures. You know, when God gives you something, you know, you're supposed to give it back multiplied. You know,
Right.
and that's what I've been doing, and that's what, you know, God's been opening the windows of heaven, as the scripture says, and pouring
Nice.
out blessings that you can't be able to see. So I be able to receive. So I believe in, as God gives you something, you're supposed to multiply it. You're supposed to nurture it. You're supposed to increase it. So when it's time to come back to Him, God is pleased. You know. So that's just one of the things that I'm doing. You know, I'm still doing video production. I've got a couple of shows that I'm trying to find a home for. Not necessarily reality, but in the documentary space.
Nice.
I've had comments come back to me saying, you know, you're really good at finding interesting people, and you know, thank God for that. But there's just a lot of things that I'm trying to do, and I'm just waiting on God on. And when I say waiting, I'm not just sitting here in the corner,
Right. Exactly.
but I'm looking, you know, and I'm occupying with other things until that opportunity presents itself. So I think we really need to understand and be clear on what the terminology means when people say, "Oh, wait on the Lord," and you know, the Lord will fight your battles. You know, well, you know, He'll fight your battles, but you're still in the mix. You know,
Right.
God may
Right.
tell you when to duck. God may tell you when to throw a punch. You know, you got to be able to hear His voice, and He says real clearly that my sheep know my voice.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
real important to know His voice, and then you know. When you hear His voice, Terrence, this is the answer to your question. When you know His voice, then you know what your next step is.
It's true. You're absolutely right. I've got no problem with that answer, man. That's right on point. Right on point. So how can people find you? How can they support? Let the people know where to go.
Well, I could be found at CraigCrawfordPlayers.com. That's my website. I'm on Facebook, the Craig Crawford Players. My personal page, Craig Crawford Players, is filled, but my fan page, the Craig Crawford Players, you can have as many friends as you know as you want.
Right.
I'm also on Instagram,
Nice.
Craig Crawford Players, and I'm on Twitter, Craig Crawford 6, the number
Nice.
6, Craig
Okay.
Crawford 6.
Cool. I'll put all of the links in the description as well.
Okay.
For the podcast. So anybody wants to click on it, definitely check it out. Also check out the Rev on USA.
Yes.
It's really good, y'all. Y'all need to check
Thursday
that out.
nights,
Yes.
10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. Every Thursday night. We really need your support. It's a great show, as Terrence has attested to, but ratings do count. So we need
Right.
you to look at it. We need you to, DVR it, whatever you can do. Just, get in there, let yourself be counted, because this may be a stepping stone for other people that are doing a show. And, if they see support from our community, they'll say, hey, let me give this show a shot because we had such great success with the Rev.
Right. Definitely. Any final thoughts or words of advice you want to share?
Terrence, like I said earlier, I'm happy to be in the family of the Lord. I'm happy to, that he took somebody like me and decided that, I was worthy to be blessed. And, as I think back about one of the greatest decisions that I made in my life. And that was to accept Christ in my life at the age of 18.
Nice.
It was the best decision that I made. And I had plans of waiting till I was 35, until after I had all my fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But God saw different. I grew up in the church, and then one night at my house in Brooklyn, God spoke to me, and I accepted God, seriously accepted God in my life at the age of 18 at my house. And it just opened up a whole new world for me. And that's when I got involved with video production. That's when, I was just doing so many different things that God, I didn't even recognize it as God, but I know it was blessed. But that decision, I can't tell you how important that decision was, accepting God in my life at the age of 18, how it changed my life and brought me to where I am today.
That's cool. And listen, even if you're not 18, you've passed those years, it's never too late to accept God and experience the blessings. I always say, you can try to do a lot of things by willing yourself to do it, but you can only be your best with God. You can only really be your best with God. Because he knows everything. But, I'm not going to get on my soapbox.
No, we need that.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. So many times I've chased success, and it's like, oh man, what do I need to do? Oh, I need to figure out how to learn names. Oh, I need to get more marketing it. You stick with God. You that's the only way you can be the best you that you can be. I can be the best Terrence that I can be with God.
Absolutely.
And that's really it. And on that, we're gonna end the podcast. I mean, there's nothing else to say right there.
Hey,
Craig,
man.
I really appreciate your time. I appreciate all your experience, man. I appreciate the friendship, man.
Thank you, man. It's such a joy and a pleasure. And, I thank you for what you're doing and how you've been doing it over the years. And, if you don't know Terrence as a drummer, you're just missing another fantastic part of him, because, the guy is just tasty. When you talk about solo, when you talk about playing pocket, when you talk about just being a musician that knows how to fit in, I got some plans for you, Terrence.
All right. Hey, let's let God work. Let's let God work. I'm ready. All right, man. So again, that's the Words for Life podcast. You can find out more information about us at wordsforlife.today. So it's words, the number 4, life.today. And with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one of the Words for Life tracks right after this. So check it out. It's a slimmed down word. I want to say I've edited a word down so you get about 1 point, and I produce some music behind it. So listen to that and enjoy. And with that, we're out.
You and I, out of all created organisms on planet Earth, we were created without a pre-programmed computer chip on how to survive. which simply means when God created us, he created us without limitation, with no limits. However, the only thing that limits us is, number one, people we hear. Whoever speak into our life the most, whatever dominating, reoccurring themes that keep re-echoing through our minds. Association brings on assimilation. So whatever we hear the most, see the most, whoever speak the most into our life, by beholding, you become change. And so that's where your cap comes from. Who are you hanging around with? Who are you listening to? And who are your role models? You cannot rise any higher than what you dwell on most of the time. And so church is not enough to get you there. Church is a moment where you worship God out of the abundance of what he's deposited in you because of the experience that you're having with him. And so sometimes worship for some is limited because they have not appreciated all that he's deposited in them because they're not living their full potential during the week. So worship is an outburst. In other words, worship is an expression of an appreciation of being grateful for what God has given you. See, worship is God's way of saying, I'm gonna allow you to approach me, but you'll never catch me. But in approaching me, something happens to you. See, so those who don't worship, what could have happened to them never happened to them. However, God's still gonna be God, and he's not insecure in that he needs your worship. Our worship is not for him, it's for us. So when we miss worship, we're missing the opportunity to worship him by way of going closer to him. And once we come to know God, as it is our privilege to know him, our life will be a life of continual obedience. As the heart panteth after the water brook, my soul pants after thee, O God. And once you start thirsting and hungry for righteousness, something happens to your soul. Something takes place within your mind that the world can never, ever give you enough of.